Hello. I'd like to talk a little bit about social workers. There was a time I had a very low opinion about the degree of help they actually provided the communities that they serve in. I would say I was jaded because it was always my opinion that it was very, very minimum the amount of concern they showed, because the amount of successes that they can show their work for when we deal with like the homeless population, when we deal with helping people out that desperately needed, when we deal with the psychologically disabled, we could call it. I didn't quite understand when I held these opinions exactly, quite frankly, what the fuck I was actually talking about. And this came to me when I was trying to help one friend in the last 6 months. A friend of mine, she needed help, and she had been a friend of mine for many years prior. She left Fayetteville to seek her fortune in Las Vegas, and a lot of bad things happened to her. And one of these instances, she was sold into human trafficking. That sort of thing, it doesn't just, it doesn't leave a person, I think, ever, really. And it's difficult to recover in some cases in terms of fear and psychological issues that it can cause. Some people, of course, recover better than others, and that's sort of a thing that when we note people are different in what they can tolerate and what they can stand, and to what degree. People are different. We can't just put them into one lump sum and say, this is the one thing that you do to get over that. Because that's not how that works. And that's not how people work. They're more complex than any one way of thinking. I needed to get her here because she had called and asked me for help. Quite frankly, begged. And I felt it urgent to do so. I felt a tremendous amount of need to help her, and I'll get into that momentarily. And I thought that I could do a better job than any social worker could. So I would be her caseworker, not just her friend. I would work on getting her life back together, making sure she was okay and had the things that she needed to get a hand up. And I tried to get her here first because I couldn't go down practically. This is during the COVID years, specifically around when it first happened. A lot of the U.S., of course, wasn't designed to shut down, and Las Vegas was really not designed to shut down. It's kind of how we worded it. Las Vegas did shut down and then went to hell very quickly. And she lost a lot of things and ended up in a lot of trouble and a lot of problems. And it had taken its toll on her, and I can hear it in her voice and her need to return. And I felt so bad. I didn't want to leave my friend in a bad place. So I moved to try to get her a plane ticket. She told me she can't have a plane ticket because she doesn't have an ID. So I try to contact some airports and some airlines, and I say, this is some specific situations. Can we work with it? Well, she has certain forms of ID, a birth certificate and whatnot. Can we work with that? And so I was working with the airline trying to work that out, and she said, well, I don't have my birth certificate either. Well, I thought you said you did. It was stolen. Okay, that's all right. Let's spend the money on the bus ticket. God, I hate buses. I hate them. I've been from one end of this country to the other on buses, and I have always hated buses. But it would be something to get her out of that situation, and we got her here. And so I let her stay with us for, and I say us, me and my roommates. So we were going to get her together in 1 month. That's what my big plan was initially. That's what it was first. Take care of most of her life within 1 month. I didn't even feel that it was a hard goal to meet. I thought that would be easy. All I had to do was take care of everything on my list. Life is much harder than that, I'm afraid. She had no IDs to begin with, nothing to indicate that she was who she claimed to be. And that was going to be a hell of a step. How the hell do you start from scratch with someone with nothing to prove that they exist, in terms of, at least in government way? So I worked on it. It took a while, but she began to be really crude to me, really mean to me. And I tried to write it off as, well, she's experienced a lot. And it's okay. Because I can be the person that you need to be, the understanding one. You're upset about a lot of things in your life. You're taking it out on the people around you, but you don't mean to do this. It's not your intention, and I understand. And I'm your friend. So I'll take it. That's okay. I pulled a favor from a friend named Ray Reynolds. Ray Reynolds is an ex-judge who's an attorney here in Fayetteville, and he's my general attorney as well. He did me a solid and helped me get her vitals checks so I could get her birth certificate and get on the way to getting her an ID. That was the first step of a few steps we had to take just to get her a general ID. Now the real ID laws are about to kick in about 2 months from now, and there's going to be a bit of a catch-22, so it's going to be almost implausible. Not impossible, I imagine, but it's going to be difficult because you won't be able to get a Social Security card without a real ID, but you won't be able to get a real ID without a Social Security card. Hell if I know how that's going to work, but I'm sure there'll have to be a process. It was already difficult enough to do it before the real ID laws kick in. Nevertheless, we got her first ID out here, and boy, that took a hot minute. Everything involved in that. She was mean-spirited to the judge while he was helping us a bit, inconsiderate necessarily. I remember the judge had said, listen, my wife is sick at home, and I need you to keep your face covered, but Heather just dropped the mess. I'm sorry. I just didn't understand why she would do that. She just left it there like she didn't care. And I asked her, please pull that up. But I shouldn't have to. He had just said it right to everybody in the room. She just didn't. And I didn't understand it. But I tried to play it off, tried to let it go, tried to understand. She's taken some time. But when she left the room mad that it had even been asked, almost. Upset that she even had to be in the room. And Ray had told me, in cases like this, people often bite the hand that helps them. So I understand, but it's worth it. She's a good person. I'm going to stand there with her. I'm going to make sure this stuff gets done. I get her first place, and it seems okay, and in my absence, there's always a fire. My Facebook and my email and my phone blow up all the time because of something she's doing or something she's done or some issue she's going through. At one point in time, she had found a group of other friends, is what I want to call them. And I say friends in the loosest term of the word. She began hanging out with people that served meth, and she got back on meth, a previous problem she had had before. She had taken the gentleman's car that she lived with to go to that meth house, and that gentleman was a disabled gentleman. She borrowed a disabled gentleman's car. She doesn't have a license. She's driving without a license, no insurance, to a meth house. And during a period of 3 days, the car gets stolen by the other meth people in there, and we still haven't found it today. She has to come back to some of her friends, and they get a hold of me. Of course they do, because she wanted to know if I could help her, because she has asked me to help her again. And I don't understand what they're telling me, and I get there and I'm trying to discern it, and she's lashing out and she's mad that she even has to answer the questions. She's still coming off of meth. She has a bunch of needle marks all over her, 6 of them precisely. I don't know how to take it. I'm upset. But I'm still trying to remember she's a good person. She's just going through hell. She needs to understand these people aren't her friends. But what do I do now? I have to take her back to a room she's renting, to a disabled gentleman whose car she just lost to a bunch of meth heads in a meth house that she intentionally went to. I get there, and she's going to have to face the music, and she's wild and upset and angry and still lashing out at me. I didn't do this. I don't deserve this, but I remember she's just upset and she's coming down, and it's not me. She's not mad at me. It's not about me bad. And so I take the lashes that aren't mine, but I take them. And I work on bringing her to the door, and I stand before her landlord / disabled man that owns a car that's not there, and I have to tell him this is what's happened, and I am as honest and forthcoming as I can be. And he listens, and he understands enough. But I tell him we still have to call the police, and we have to get this filed. And he said, I get it. I've already called the police, though. I said, okay. So what do we need to do now? He said, we need to file a follow-up report, and we get a cop there. Fayetteville police was pretty cool. They sent an officer out to do a second report on the first report from another cop that was there before. The officer has to hear a meth-induced rant from Heather, who keeps passing out and falling asleep. We have to wake her up, and she's still scared a little bit, worried that she's about to be locked up forever. But she just kind of tells him a bunch of random details about people whose names it's probably not their names, and out of a place that no one would dare go in their right goddamn mind. And then we get her to her room where she's mad and still flustered and pissed. And I don't understand why she's so pissed. Why is she mad? She hurt other people. Why is she mad? I try to understand. It's just the drug. It's not the person. The officer says at this time and asks the disabled gentleman, what do you wish to do? And he says, well, if it's a crime that we all make mistakes occasionally and no one would go without jail time, I'm okay. It's all right. Just keep a lookout for my car. I don't want to press charges. And he let it go. I don't know many people who would do something like that. And I know a lot of very good people, but none of them would be okay with that. None of them would be okay with somebody making off with the car, leaving it at a meth house, having meth heads take it to fuck knows where, because we still don't know. Ain't nobody helping find it either. None of the meth heads that are her friends. Of course not, because that's not what they do. Because they're not good people. Why would they? They only said they were your friend, right? At the end, the officer leaves, and I have to go in Heather's room and say, Heather, listen, you need to sleep this off. And she's screaming bloody murder at me, telling me to get the fuck away from her and fuck me. And she doesn't need me. She doesn't need anybody. She's an adult and she'd be fine. Fuck it. I should never have come back. I should never have come back. And it hurt, but again, I'm like, I don't know what to do past this. And I apologize profusely to our landlord / disabled gentleman. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened, and I didn't. She just needed help. She just needed me to help her, get her up, pick her up, and I tried so hard to do that. But I felt like I had failed, but I hadn't. Somehow, I came out of that. Somehow it might be okay. It got worse over time. But I told her the next time I saw her, never again with meth. Never again do you do meth. If you do, we will never be friends again. We will never talk again. I am done. I will not watch another human being destroy themselves. As Neil Young once said, I've seen the needle and the damage done. I won't watch it. She ends up getting in multiple fights with one of her roommates, who, while I don't think the roommate is a good person, they both were at fault. Her roommate was on the verge of, well, let's just say I was asked to help evict that roommate by the landlord / disabled gentleman for a multitude of reasons, not just about when he pays rent, but how he treats people. I would argue that guy is a bit of a sociopath. The two of them were fighting all the time, and the disabled gentleman he was getting to him. And I could see it. And all the time, again, my messenger always with some fire to put out. Always there was a problem. In the end, the two had a fight. She ended up arrested. I ended up having to bail her out. Well, not quite. She went to the hospital, to the psych ward for a while first. In the psych ward, she had to explain why she had cut herself again, multiple times. She came back after having been served an order of protection by the other roommate, which was weird to the owner of the house because the landlord thought it was his house and that the other one should be evicted. And who are you to tell her she can't come to a place she rents? It got weird. But to be frank, she had been the reason a lot of it had happened. Cars being stolen, fights constantly. Most of us could just walk away from things that this sociopath says and does. Most of us could take a stand for ourselves. Hot air from a buffalo, but not her, no. She excavated the problem, escalating it to a point that it got out of hand. She was inevitably arrested for violating the order of protection, of which the sociopath said he would not call in if she was to come back because it had upset the owner of the house. Of course, he did call whenever she was there because that's what he does. So you can't have a sociopath and an unstable person in the same house. I think that was enough for the owner. So he asked her when she returned and the order of protection had been rescinded via his nurse to no longer be a roommate. I was relieved, quite frankly. I took all of her stuff out of there, me and a couple of people, moved all of her things. It had turned out that in the closet she had more meth. I didn't know what to do about that, but I guess technically I hadn't known whether or not she had been taking it again. Technically, I don't know any of this shit. Technically, it could have been anything. Just been there from the last visit she had been, but she'd never done it. How the fuck would I know, right? So I give her the benefit of the doubt. Because surely she wouldn't betray my trust in her. So we moved her back to my place with my roommates. We were due to move her into a new place again. And I worked on that while we worked on getting her set up because her court stuff was coming. A judge afforded her a lot of leeway because I had her hospital record during her psych exam, and the first 3 pages were dark, and it just gets worse from there. And a judge out of Bentonville, for which she had prior charges we were working on getting her community service and helping her work herself out. Man. He looked at that 3 pages in and I could tell it was over. He assigned her a public defender. It looked like maybe we could work towards that. Many things were going better then. We finally got her teeth, which had fallen out, namely to osteoporosis, but not entirely to osteoporosis. I try very hard to help her. She took her card for which she gets disability payments. I was due to have her a place, and in 3 days I had a place for her. And I needed her rent money. She had spent all of it. And I said, okay, I'll cover it. Of course I will. It's what I do. But I paid for her teeth, because her teeth, she felt very insecure and upset and always mad that she didn't look good enough. So I got her teeth, denture sets. It's something I wanted her to be happy. If I just do this one thing, she'll be happy. Of course, she's lashed out at me day in and day out, and that last week, staying with me. Just completely mean. I said she's just stressed. She just needs to get used to the idea of living at a place, which of course I only get her at a place. And in this place, within 4 days of getting all of her stuff moved in, she immediately gets evicted. Of course she does. So I began moving everything out. But during that that day of eviction, I get yet another call, another fire to put out. It was last Friday. She had been drinking, something she can't do on her medication. And she lashed out at me very, very hard. Internally, I'm like, what is wrong with you? But I'm trying very hard to talk her down. Please listen to me. Please, it's me. Please, I've been there. Please, I'm your friend. You have to listen. Now is the time. She wouldn't. She couldn't. I have been keeping with the game plan too long. But as I was trying to talk to her and explain to her, we have to go. You have to come with me and sleep it off. You're upsetting the roommates for one reason or another. This is not going to end well. I need you to help me help you. Please come with me. Sleep at my place until this is over, and we'll work on something else. You know, she stepped up and she hit me, punched me right in the shoulder. And that's when one of her roommates called the police. And this is when I knew I had been finished with her. Not in the amount of punching. I remember I said these words. I couldn't believe I said it. I said, "It's okay. It doesn't hurt." I excused her. But I had heard myself say that. I always remember when wives or girlfriends of husbands, they would say this. And I would just be like, why the fuck would you say that? Why the hell would you excuse this behavior? What's wrong with you? It's never okay to have someone lay their hands on you like that, to hit you, even if it doesn't hurt. That's not the point. I used to box back in the day. I love it, man. Nothing like a good couple of rounds to really get the blood pumping. The thing about boxing, of course, you have to learn how to take a hit. I mean, life isn't a movie. You're gonna get hit in a boxing ring. You need to learn how to take a punch, and some people are good at giving a goddamn punch, and you're gonna know it when they hit you. It's not like she hurt me physically. I could very literally, in fact, if I had to gauge it, beat her down with one hand tied behind my back. But I don't do that because that's not the right thing to do. That would be completely unethical of me. It's unethical of her to hit me at all. I'm the person, but I made an excuse and I caught myself doing it, and I was so mad at myself for doing that. Then she finally wanders out and hides the bottle from me that she had said she didn't have. The alcohol she said she hadn't been drinking. Tries to hide it on her way out the door, but of course I saw it. And then as the medics and the cops had come up, she is screaming bloody murder off her gourd from how bad the alcohol reacts with her medication. And she is yelling such profanity at me, ripping on me. I'm the one that helped her, but I'm the one that gets hurt in the end. Parts of me felt such guilt for not being able to save her, even in that moment. I had always been the one when she was here to say, let me take your burden so that you can walk with your shoulders up again. Let me take the slings and the goddamn arrows so you can stop being wounded. Let me wear the shackles so you can walk free. And I was okay to do it. It's not like I enjoyed it. I'm not a goddamn masochist. But I would do it because it was the right thing to do. Because I believed that the social workers of old did not know what the fuck they were doing. They did not care. They did not stand up and help the people when they needed it the most. Not understanding how much I was letting somebody hurt me. I'm reminded of Boxer from Animal Farm. Loyal, believes the message to the fault, and is willing to work himself to fucking death, and the reward at the end of the tunnel is being sent to the glue factory. I'm the goddamn faithful horse. She was being very crude, but the police gave her 2 chances. First time she was yelling before she got off of the property. They didn't do as much. They told her you can't do that when you start walking onto the public street, which she did, and yelled bloody murder, still screaming profanity at me, slashes and hacks about how I'd done her wrong. They stopped her. They told her, you cannot do that. They sat her down. They even gave her 2 bottled waters and said, stay hydrated. You need to work whatever this is out of your system. But don't do this anymore. So of course she stands up, and as she's walking away, she needs to do it some more because she doesn't know when to stop. And they did arrest her. I watched it because it was right next to my car. Of course, I got to watch the whole thing. The entire time she's yelling at me and telling me what a piece of shit I am. But as they put her in the truck, she's begging me to help her. Screaming, please don't let them do this to me. Please help me. They shut the window on her. And honestly, if I could have helped her at that moment, no matter what she put me through, I would have. Recently I've seen her, gave her a ride. She asked if it was okay to talk again, and I just told her, please, I just want an easygoing car ride. I'm going to get you to your meeting. Just please don't treat me bad. I don't understand why you didn't come pick me up. I don't understand why you didn't tell anybody. She said, because I broke the cycle. But she didn't hear that. She doesn't hear anything anymore. She kept yelling about how bad of a person I was again, and I told her I'm not going to feel bad about trying to help. I'm not going to feel bad about helping you anymore. She had been doing it so often that she didn't realize she had been doing it. She didn't know what to say. But in the end, it's always a new way to try to hate at me, try to treat me bad. The entire trip back from her meeting was nothing at her yelling at me for a long time. Some things I'd realized about myself. I'd been trying to save a woman named Felice over and over and over again. Felice was very close with me. I really cared about that woman. I loved her. But I couldn't save Felice when Felice suicided. I was at the hospital and I saw what was a body with no mind. Too much brain damage. There was no coming back. All that was the body. I had lost her forever. And it always hurt me to think, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? If I had only been there and tried harder. And I've always been wrecked with that guilt forever. So when a friend asks me for help, I do everything I could to help her. Because I'm still trying to save someone who's no longer alive. I'm still trying to save somebody's life. And with my friend from Las Vegas, I wanted her to be happy. I did what I could to save her. And she's only ever treated me bad. And she never understood she was doing it. It's a word I use to describe what she does. And how she understands the world around her. It's not a real word. It's called Certro-Centric. Centra means center. Centric is usually what surrounds the center in its relation to the center itself. Symmetric and all that. She can only view things in terms of herself, and everything around it is also viewed in terms of self and only self. Nothing else. She does not understand somebody else's point of view and cannot. And this isn't about narcissism. And I think the distinguishing feature is narcissism is a complete sort of an intentional disregard. I don't even think she knows she's doing it. When I start trying to tell her what I'm about and why I don't do the things I do for her anymore, she doesn't understand it. She can't stop interrupting me. Just to show how centrocentric I think she is. She's never once asked me why I didn't come to bail her out that last time. Not one time has she asked me what my story was, what my experience was. She did not even ask. Even now, she doesn't know. At any rate, I think I'm going to head on tonight. Thank you for joining me.